Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Certain Age, the podcast where we do our best to live out loud. I am Kodi Maurice Doggette, alongside my partner in all things, Steve V. Rodriguez. How you doing today, Steve?
Hello, hello. Doing really good. Thank you.
Love it, love it. And today we are talking about travel with award-winning editor, travel writer, and family man Paul Heney. We'll have a chat with our guest in just a moment. But before that, I kind of want to ask you, Steve, what are your experiences with travel? Are you looking to start a family? Because we're going to be talking a lot about families, I feel like, with Paul. But what are your experiences with travel?
Well, with travel, I'm just a huge avid traveler, and I'm excited to talk to Paul Heney in a little bit because I just think now more than ever, this particular year and maybe the tail end of last year, people have really been getting back to traveling post pandemic. And I feel that we're looking at more interesting spots to go to. And so I'm looking forward to taking some trips this year outside of my normal Puerto Vallarta that I talk about a lot. But I will be going there a lot just because I've mentioned before there's a reason I go there. But I'm looking forward to a river cruise that I'm going to be taking that's going to go along the Douro River, and it's a wine tasting cruise.
Hmm.
So really just exploring Portugal and Spain
Ooh.
is really going to be kind of on my radar. I'm also looking forward to hiking, more hiking types of trips, just because I've gotten the bug of hiking and that kind of a trip. So those are kind of on my radar. And in terms of family, I think it's so important because so many people, our community, are building families.
Hmm.
And while I myself do not plan on having children, that and just never got that bug, but I know plenty of friends that are at various stages in their life becoming parents. And family, of course, comes in all shapes, and it can be
True.
the family that you put together, your chosen family. And so while I don't plan on having a family, I do have my chosen family, the chosen family that I want to continue to grow and travel with. So that's kind of where I am on that. How about yourself?
Love that. Love that. Well, I do plan on starting a family, and I really just cannot wait to pick Paul's brain about his experiences traveling with his family because he is a father of two, and his husband, and what it's like to actually go places with that unit that you have to ensure their safety. You have to, and again, like you said, chosen family is a perfectly acceptable form of family and all those familiar bonds, but I feel like when you have a child that you have to take care of, it's a whole different experience. And I cannot wait to hear what he has to say about this. I also cannot wait to hear what he says about cruises, because cruising is something that I have been wanting to do for a very long time. I've been wanting to do it since my 40th birthday, but that's a whole nother story. But I will be going on a cruise very shortly, soon. It won't be a river cruise. Hopefully, it's one of those transatlantic ones in the Caribbean. And I want to ask you to come with me when we do it. So I cannot
Would
wait.
love that.
Okay, let's
Yes,
go.
definitely. Wonderful. Well, should we get into our conversations with Paul Heaney?
Perfect. Let's do it.
Well, Cody, I could not be more excited today to talk to our special guest. We're going to be talking about travel and family travel and so many other things to look out for traveling in 2024. How
I'm
excited are you?
so excited. We're going to just have a great time. I feel the energy bubbling, and I just can't wait to get into this conversation.
Well, we want to welcome Paul J. Heney, award winning editor, travel writer, covering hospitality, trends, family, all LGBTQ plus and beyond. And welcome, Paul, to Of a Certain Age.
Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Cody, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Welcome.
Absolutely. I'm just curious, as somebody that's been writing in the travel arena for so many years now, and you've been an editor and probably various facets of it, how have you seen travel change throughout when you started your writing career compared to today? And I'm talking particularly within the LGBTQ community.
If you go way back, I would say one of the things I've seen is a lot of change in cruises, where at a certain point, when you said, a queer cruise or a gay cruise, there was only one thing that people thought of, and it was thousands and thousands of shirtless white men on a
Right.
boat, with electronic music, and I'm not saying that that's not a thing today.
I was gonna say, what's the change again? I'm not quite sure.
I mean, you see, and again, I'm just picking on cruises.
Yeah.
You see such a different dynamic where you see uh, gay couples who want to go on cruises, but they don't necessarily want to be around just LGBTQ people. They want to be around a diversity of people. You see families, queer families, who want to cruise together. You see a lot more. There's been a lot of growth in luxury cruising, and you're probably aware. I mean, there's a lot of gay couples out there who don't have kids, and so they they aren't spending money on everything from diapers to college. So they are able to, travel with some of the finer things in life. Not everyone, but there definitely are. There's definitely a market out there for that. So we've definitely seen an increase in those kind of upper level cruises too. So again, just to pick on one corner of the travel market, but yeah, there's a lot of change happening.
That's
Yeah.
so amazing.
Yeah, I was just
Oh.
going to add to that I think I've seen with the advent of Vakaya, I'm going to be taking one of
Mhm.
their cruises upcoming, and
Amazing.
just their multicultural embracing the community from that standpoint. And then, like you said, smaller cruises are popping up. I'm going to do a river cruise that I believe only has, it's going to be through the Douro River.
Oh,
And
Portugal, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly, and it's a wine river cruise for LGBTQ, only about 100 people, and so these subgroups of cruises
Mhm.
that, we're not gonna be partying like crazy on that river cruise. It'll be a lot of fun, but just the subgroups of cruises that have come about, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, that particular cruise is high up on my husband and my list. So maybe we'll book it with you.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that would be great,
That
definitely.
sounds Yeah, that sounds so much fun. I've never even heard of a river cruise before, but now that's something I need to definitely look into. As someone who is I want to go on a cruise so bad.
Mhm.
That's on my bucket list. What are some of the benefits of a cruise? Like, if you're looking for what type of experience, a certain type of experience, should you expect on a cruise? And if you're not looking for a particular type of experience, what would you say are some of the if you're not looking for that experience, what should you do on a cruise?
Well, I mean, you're you're not gonna be surprised to have me say this, but it does depend a lot on what you're looking for from the
Hmm.
cruise, and what kind of vacations you enjoy. So let me jump into the river cruise thing, because not a lot of folks are familiar with that. So the difference between, and I'm being really general here, but between an ocean going cruise, like think of your Caribbean cruise, and a river cruise, whether it be in Vietnam or Portugal or Germany. Um, with most of the ocean going cruises, the boats are very large. They can be as small as a couple hundred people, they can be as large as 7,000 people. I think they just launched the every year or two we get a new biggest boat, and I think the newest one is around 7,000 passengers. With a river, with those, especially the larger boats, there's so much to do on them, right? You can go to a bunch of different restaurants every night. Go to a different restaurant. You have Broadway productions. You have um, water slides sometimes, and I mean, right, crazy
Yeah.
events. You do the video games where you're playing, virtual reality golf. They've got basketball courts. You can sit by the pool, on and on and on. So let's say you are on a Caribbean cruise and one of your ports is Cozumel, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been to Cozumel 5 times. I don't need to, go to Cozumel again. You can stay in the boat. There is plenty to do. There's plenty to occupy you. Similarly, you might be on a cruise going to Aruba from Miami. And so you might have 2 or 3 days at sea where you're not stopping at a port. You are just on that boat 24/7, which may sound miserable to some people, but there's so much to do. You can keep yourself occupied. You can eat like crazy. You go to the gym. You can go to the spa. You can do whatever.
Oh,
On river cruises, it's really it's a totally different game, and I like to almost compare them, even though people get horrified for a minute. I almost compare them more to motels versus resorts. Ocean going cruise
okay.
is a resort, and motel has negative connotations. I don't mean it like that, but on a river cruise, I mean, you're on these rivers, usually like in Europe or Asia, and so the boats have a very specific width they can be because there's different locks along the river. So they might be, a couple 100 feet long and maybe only, I don't know, 40 or 50 feet wide. So you're only talking about, 200, passengers on the boat at most, and there's no room for things. There might be a pool that's like the size of a king bed, with a few chairs around it. There's no, they have a workout fitness facility that might be, smaller than, the one you find at like a Courtyard Marriott hotel by the airport. So there are things you can do on the ship, but you would never ever say, you know what, I don't want to go into or I don't want to go into Budapest today. I'm just going to stay on the boat and enjoy its amenities. It's
Right.
Mm.
got the bare minimum, but as opposed to an ocean going ship where you're at this port and you might not be close to the city center, with river cruises, like every day you're stopping in a really dynamic city and you're right in the middle of the action. You walk off the boat
Oh.
and you're like in the center city.
Oh, that's amazing. So it's basically what I hear you're saying is that there are there's a specific type of cruise for any experience that you want to have.
Correct. The other
Fabulous.
thing that I tell people about cruises, especially when people say, "Oh God, I would hate that," I I thought I would hate cruises too. I am like a planner. Like half of what I love about travel is like plotting it out, even if it's like a road trip, right? I'm like, all right, we're staying in this city for 3 days, and then we're going here, and it's going to take us 2 days to drive there, and then one city and the next city. So I thought I would hate like kind of giving up that control. But even if you're that way, I think cruises can be so great for areas of the world that are hard to reach otherwise, or areas of the world that you've never been to. So I'll give you two examples. One, if you're going to, let's say, Alaska, so many of those little Alaska towns in Alaska you can't get to. It's not like you just drive from one to the other, or it would be impractical to fly from one to the other. So by
Mm.
being on a cruise ship, and they have big ones and they have smaller ones that do the Alaskan thing. You really hit a lot of places in a week or 10 days that you really just couldn't get to in the same way and by any other mode of transportation. The converse is, for example, we took our kids on a Greek cruise not last, but the year before, 2022, and we'd never been to Greece. So this was a nice sampler. I mean, the good and bad thing about a cruise is you arrive at a port one day, and if you're like, oh, this is okay, this is an all right island or an all right city, you don't like it that much, you're gone the next day, right? On the other side, if you get to a place and you're like, this is the most amazing place, I don't want to leave. Well, you got to leave. The ship's leaving that night.
Right.
Unless you
But
want to be stuck.
yeah. Oh, that's true too. But for something like Greece, for example, not now we know like there are some places that I don't need to go back to. Like, okay, I saw that amazing vista, but it was crowded with tourists, and I don't need to go back to that island. But if I ever had a week to go back to Greece, both my husband and I know where we would go. So it's a
Tell me.
like Crete. We love Crete, and you're not going to hear that
Okay.
very often. All the gays want to go to Mykonos, which was also very cool. But Crete is like such a huge island. It's got like two or three mountain chains on this one island. It looks like California wine country in places. I mean, it's very different than what you picture a Greek island. But I would love to just have a week or two to just explore this island.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
So
definitely.
cruises can do all of the above. Again, that's why I say they're so dependent on what you're looking for and what you want to get out of it.
Well, you mentioned your family, and I know you and your partner, or is it your husband?
My husband, yeah, yeah.
Husband, yes. Do you have two sons? Is
I
that
do.
correct?
I have two sons. They're my biological kids. I was married to a woman before we got divorced, and I came out after that, and found my amazing husband a couple years after that, and we've been together, gosh, 12, almost 13 years, and married about 2.5.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, my sons are now 16 and 22, and
Oh,
yeah, we love it. They're older. They're not little kids,
I was going to say
and
they grown.
they've grown. Um, we've really tried every year to take them on at least one big family trip, the four of us. And early on, when they were littler, a lot of times it would be out west. It would be to a national park sometimes, like Glacier National Park in Montana is so fantastic. Or we'd pick a state like New Mexico or Arizona or Oregon, just kind of drive through that state and hit the cities and hit the national parks and kind of, figure out whatever it was known for, whether it was like the cuisine in New Mexico or the wines and the coffee in Oregon, and just kind of soak up a place. As they got older, especially my older one who's in his final semester of college, I got thinking, this isn't necessarily forever, right? Like there can be a summer soon where he says, I got a girlfriend, I don't want to leave her, I don't want to go on vacation this year, or I got a job and I can't get the time off. So we kind of we broadened our horizons with them a little bit, and we've taken them overseas now. So we've done Hong Kong, and we've done Greece, and we did Spain this past summer. So trying to make them good citizens of the world.
That's really
Wow.
cool. I mean, I think that you've experienced and will continue to the various stages of your children, but travel. And like you said, I mean, when they're younger, of course, national parks, adventure type travel, but
Mhm.
now it's almost like you're traveling them as companions and as adults. And so
It's
it
amazing.
can only be enriching, I'm sure.
It is. It is. And I mean, it's funny as a parent too, especially when they're really little. Like they get to a point, and you're like, I mean, this in your heart, but it's like, wow, they're really a person. Like, it sounds so stupid, but like when you have them from babyhood, right? It's like, wow, this is like a human being with opinions and a sense of humor, and the older they get, the more fun it is.
Yeah, I
That's
love
great.
that. So I'm really curious because we've talked a bunch about your family,
Mhm.
and I feel like I know them already, honestly. So that's wonderful. But what are some of the struggles you've encountered traveling as a gay father coming up through the years, like when they were younger versus now? What are some of the things that like you would offer to someone that wants to have a family, like me personally?
So I think some of the struggles have been when we travel to places that aren't as queer friendly. For example, we were on going back to cruises. We were on a cruise one time, and the one stop happened to be Jamaica, which we weren't thrilled about, but it was what it was. And
Mm-hmm.
so, we kind of had to have a whole conversation with them because my husband Lance, he's their stepdad, and they've known him since they were little. Um, like, okay, you realize like we're going to have to pretend to just be friends, like he's your uncle Lance today kind of thing, while we're on the island if anyone asks. Um and that yeah, it was tough for me, not that it was a tough conversation to have because the kids are great, but it's like tough to like give them that insight as to what a crappy world it can be sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
um
Wow.
and also like don't be too scared. Like it's not like anything's gonna happen, and maybe the situation won't even happen. But I mean, it ended up happening. We had a driver, and he said something about like, "Where are the wives today?" And we're like, "Oh, we left them on the ship. They're at the
Oh
spa."
my God.
I think the other thing I've we've run into is I'm white. My husband is African American, and we've definitely had some instances where he's kind of been othered. Like for example, we were at a very I'm not going to name it, but a very famously queer welcoming major hotel in Las Vegas. That's as specific as I'll be. And they were actually hosting us. I was doing a travel story on Las Vegas, and we're in line, and we get up to the front of the line, and I go up to the counter, and I'm like checking in and showing her my ID and everything. And then behind me are the kids, and then behind them are Lance. And at one point, she said to me like, "Excuse me, sir," and then she turns her attention to Lance, like, "Sir, can you please give this family a little space? I'm
Oh
checking
my
them in. I'll be
God.
right with."
What?
And I looked right at her and I said, "That's my husband." And
Wow.
she
Good for you.
was, I mean, we weren't married at the time, but for a fact, right?
Right. Yeah,
She
exactly.
was mortified, and I wasn't like a jerk after that, but I just wanted to let her know, like, don't make assumptions like that. And so,
Yeah.
we have those kind of things that pop up from time to time. But yeah, I mean, I think we've been blessed that we haven't had a lot of bad stuff happen to us. I mean, really,
Yeah.
very, very minor things. And I mean, things happen when you travel too. So, I mean, even to, straight white cis people. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you get, if you're traveling, you got to kind of just chalk some things up to it's travel.
It's so funny you mentioned Vegas because I can remember being in Vegas not that long ago too, and one of a very similar story of being in the taxi cab
Mm.
and the taxi cab driver just assuming I would want to go to the female strip club and was
Oh my
telling me
God.
all
We've gotten
about
that
it
too.
and was pointing them out to me left and right, and I'm like, I'm not even out of the states in some remote country that people would. I mean, it's like Vegas, and it was so like I didn't. I was like, okay, whatever. Tell me all about the strip clubs. I just kind of nodded away and thought, yep, won't be going to any of those. But it is funny people's assumptions, and it does also bring up the question too. I think we were talking about it in our initial conversations in email. Do
Mhm.
you avoid those types of places that you just know you're going to be maybe othered, or do you not let that and chalk it up to a learning experience or maybe a teachable moment?
Um, so there's no right answer, I don't think, and I do think there is a very strong, I'm going to guess it's a 50-50 divide in LGBTQ land about travel. Like, do you travel to places with, let's just say, problematic laws, right? And I think there's the one side is, oh my God, no, I'm not spending my money there. Like, like screw them, right? And then the other side is, well, the only way we're ever going to change hearts and minds there is by going and being seen, being present.
Right.
Um, Now, obviously, there's a safety aspect too, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, let's go to Russia and show them how gay we are. Well, we might end up in
And then
prison,
get
or
arrested,
Uganda,
right?
we might end up, with ourselves in jail or worse.
Brittany
Um,
Griner, babe. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So I mean, it's funny. I'm a member of one, like a gay men's travel channel on Facebook, and it's like it's so funny to see this play out almost every day, because someone will be like, "Oh my God, here are my pictures from Morocco," and then like five people will jump on the guy and be like, "How would you go spend your money in that place? Blah blah blah. They hate
Oh my
us."
gosh.
It's like, just let him share his pictures of Morocco. Um,
Yeah.
Exactly.
but I think I come down a little more on the side of, let's change hearts and minds where we can while being safe. Again, not that I'm going out of my way to spend money or time in a Jamaica, but I think, let's say we're in, I don't know, Cancun, somewhere that's pretty Americanized, right? But
Mhm.
if at a resort and someone sees us walking around holding hands, I mean, we're probably not going to be unsafe at a resort. And there might be some kid there who sees us, some local kid, and that might be, we could be inspirational to him. Like, maybe he knows my parents, I know I'm gay, my parents would never accept it. But gosh, I saw this couple today and they looked so happy, and they were living their lives and walking down the street, or down the resort path holding hands. Maybe we're a beacon of hope for that kid.
Wow.
So I try and keep that in my mind. I don't, we'll never know if it happened. And then too, there could be. Americans there who are very anti-queer, and maybe they see us. They're like, "Oh, well, all I see on Fox News is drag queens murdering people, and we're at this resort, and gosh, like there was this interracial couple there that seemed really normal, and they smiled at us, and they maybe gay people aren't as bad as the things we watch on TV tell us. So, maybe we can even do some homework, quote unquote, while in these places."
Love that. That's so amazing and that's beautiful. So thank you for spreading the love out there. That's what I feel like we all have to be
We
doing.
do, we do.
Oh yeah. And to switch gears just a little bit and kind
Cool.
turn this question on its head,
Okay.
what are some of the places that you feel are most friendly for LGBTQ plus families? And yeah, that's the question.
So I'm gonna mention a few places that I mean, I could sit here and say New York, San Francisco, Palm Springs. Um, I'm gonna go with a few off the radar places. I like to try and turn people on, and hey, please follow me on Instagram at PAULHENEY. I'm always posting our latest there. But I really try and turn my queer followers onto some overlooked spots. So one that I always mention, and people kind of, people look at me and like, trust me, Rochester, New York. We
Oh,
went there on a trip a handful of years ago, and like I don't know why some people have negative opinion of Rochester. I literally had none. I don't know anything about it. I've never been there. I couldn't have told you a thing about it. It was really, really lovely, very family friendly. We were there during Pride weekend, and which I don't remember now if it was, June, July, or August, but it was definitely summertime. Um, Very family friendly Pride. You're really close to the Finger Lakes region, which is just stunning. Like Watkins Glen State Park is probably an hour or two drive, which is, I think they call it the Grand Canyon of the East. Amazing. Um, but they've got a museum and science center that is really, really well done. They have a thing called the Strong Museum of Play, and it's a museum about toys, and they have like I think it's like the Toy Hall of Fame is like kind of housed there. So you go back and they've got these toys from, and if you're of a certain age aren't really around anymore, but it's like I'm walking through going, oh my god, I forgot that thing ever existed, and they've got all these crazy old toys. um, they have a place called Roseland Wake Park, which is, well, one half of it is like a water slide park, but then the other half is this. It's hard to explain, but it's like if you took like a ski resort, like a snow ski resort, but did it for water skiing. Like they have this kind of square lake with these posts all around it, and you stand at the dock with like your water ski, and then you kind of grab this pulley, and it pulls you all around the lake. So it's like you're water skiing without a boat. The
Oh.
coolest thing.
oh.
And I was the only one, thanks to P90X, who did it. Even my strong husband couldn't do it. My kids were so arrogant. I'm going to do this, and no one. I was the only one who got like halfway around the lake, so that was like a win. Um, but yeah, they have a great queer film festival there. They have wineries around. So yeah, Rochester is one. Um, Tulsa, believe it or not, Tulsa,
Wow.
Oklahoma, is
You're blowing my mind. I
yes,
don't
is a,
like
is a weirdly. You know what Tulsa is? Tulsa is the Austin of Oklahoma, and I think I've heard them call it that before. Like Austin is this really really blue dot in a really red state. Tulsa's the same way. Um, when I was there, it was before COVID. They had just opened this $465 million park. And yes, you heard that right. Like almost
Wow.
a $500 million park. They have, I can't remember the fellow's name, but a kind of very progressive, like a billionaire there who gave them a ton of money. But it's called the Gathering Place. And it's like this totally free public park that is just insane. It's got like zip lines and swings and slides, and there's like a skywalk, and it's like the craziest urban park you've ever been to. It's amazing. Um, Cleveland, I'm gonna vouch for my hometown. Cleveland is a pretty fantastic place. We love hosting people. So Steve and Kodi, when you're in Cleveland, we got a guest bedroom for you.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Thank you.
love it. I heard Cleveland rocks, so
yes,
I'm
it
definitely
does.
down.
funny because everyone who visits us, like 201, at some point looks at us and says, "Why does Cleveland have such a bad rap? This place is like amazing." So I don't know if it was like sports teams or like, stupid industrial stuff from the 1960s, but Cleveland's really turned it around. We've got a great foodie scene. We just opened this thing called Studio West 117, which is again a huge number. It's the first phase of a $100 million LGBTQ development. And the first phase is there's like a gastro pub and a pizza place, and then a second floor rooftop bar. And then attached to it is, I think it was like a former school gymnasium that they bought. So now they use it for like queer youth sports leagues, and they'll do like drag yoga there. It's really, really cool. And then,
Drag yoga? Oh
yeah,
my
Hey,
gosh.
amazing, right?
I'm in love. Let's go. Let's go
And
right
then
now.
phase two, which is they're working on, is this amazing old like theater complex across the street where they're going to have all these performance spaces. They're going to bring in like international DJs and drag queens from all over the world, and they're doing like all these funky, like there was an old goth club there back in the day, so they're reinventing that as like a New Orleans goth club. It's really neat, with like
wow.
chandeliers outside. And then the third phase is going to be across the next street, and that's going to be like I think it's a senior LGBTQ housing thing and a hotel, and then like a health facility with, I think, a focus on transgender folks. So I mean, it's going to be, when they finish building this out, it's going to be flipping amazing. We
Nice.
got a lot of stuff coming up this year. We're hosting the women's Final Four in basketball. We've got the Pan American Masters games coming, which is, again, it's sort of Olympics for people of a certain age. Um, and we've got the total solar eclipse on April 8th, which is going from kind of Texas to New York, is going to go right over Cleveland. And Cleveland is going to be like the largest metro area completely in the path of totality. So we can talk about that too. I could talk about solar eclipses all day. It'll be my fourth. So we got to hope
Ooh.
for clear weather in April.
Yeah, wow, I love it. Getting
Yeah,
us to think outside of the box from Rochester to Tulsa to Cleveland. It's so funny just because I think so many of us, when we think about travel, it's the tried and true places, it's Paris,
it
it's New
is.
York, the city, New York. And I just think these places are becoming so touristy and
Mhm.
compacted that we need to spread out a little bit more. And one way I've been learning more about travel is I'm become an avid hiker, and I love it so
Oh, I love
much.
it.
And like in New York, we were the birthplace of what we know hiking today is. All the trails and mountains that you see started in the state of New York. And so
Oh,
what can you talk a little bit about, like exposing yourself to adventure travel and trips that maybe are outside of the box, like you've been doing?
Oh my gosh, adventure travel. So I mentioned earlier Glacier National Park in Montana, which I think is one of the absolute gems in this country. It's, everyone talks about Yellowstone and Yosemite, and that's fantastic. But oh my gosh, Glacier is so amazing. And then you can go right over the border into Alberta, and you've got, I mean, the Rocky Mountains just continue northward. So you've got Yoho and Banff and Jasper. So I mean, you could take weeks just exploring kind of Glacier in Montana up to Jasper in Alberta. Um, we've had a lot of fun adventure in Kauai, part of Hawaii, which is kind of the least developed of the
Right.
Hawaiian Islands. It's the one where they filmed Jurassic Park. But we've done like zip lining there. We've done hiking. I mean, like near the Nepali coast, which is fantastic. You can hike around the Waimea Canyon, which is, they call that the Grand Canyon of the Pacific, and it looks like the Grand Canyon, like if there was also green in the Grand Canyon. Like think of all those ochre colors and the oranges and the reds, but then throw like lush green growing around. It's really bizarre,
Wow.
beautiful. Um, and snorkeling and all the rest too. But yeah, you can do helicopter adventures in Kauai. Kauai is a great outdoor place, and I love recommending Hawaii in general to people too, because it can be what you want it to be. It can be a beach vacation and lazy and sit there and have your margarita or fruity drink, but it can also be adventure, and it can be as exotic and interesting as you want. If you really want to get into the native culture and learn about it and learn some of the language, you can. But at the same time, you don't have to mess around with money or a passport. You don't have to worry about, is your phone going to work there? So it's kind of the best of both worlds there. Like you're getting away somewhere really unique and different, and yet you're also kind of home.
Yeah, I
Nice.
loved Hawaii. It was so beautiful. It was such a transformational experience,
Hmm.
and the food is amazing.
Yes.
And just being able to explore the island and see this whole different culture, it was so world changing for me. So it opened my eyes to a lot. But I am trying to
Mhm.
get more stamps in my passport. So
Mm.
what's your forecast for travel abroad? Because we've been doing a lot of talking about travel within the United States.
My forecast. So I think, I would say for let's just talk about like travel trends for 2024. I
Okay.
think it's kind of going two ways from everyone I've talked to. I'm I just made this up. I'm going to call it a boomerang year for people.
Nice.
So I feel like 2023 is really the year where we all felt like we were really finally past the pandemic. So I think there were a lot of people who took that and really fully jumped back into travel and tried to make up for all that time they missed. And I think my husband and I were two of them. Um, we did like Australia and Spain and the Seychelles and the Dominican Republic, and then
Ooh.
I did Canada and Ecuador on top of that, and Belize. Um, but I think for people like that, I've been hearing a lot that for 2024, they're almost like, okay, I almost went into too much. And so maybe I'm going to pull back a little bit and focus on the domestic stuff. Go to the Palm Springs, go to the Key West, go to the Outer Banks, go to a national park. But then I've talked to a lot of people, and here's the other side of the coin, where they're a little bit more nervous post pandemic, and so 2023 was more the year where they started venturing out, but they were only comfortable doing the domestic thing. Maybe they did Atlanta, maybe they did Chicago,
Hmm.
um, and it seems like those people now 2024 is where they're like, all right, we were able to do it last year. Nothing happened. Now we're doing South Africa. Now we're doing New Zealand. Now we're doing, those top of the bucket list kind of places.
Oh, wonderful.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah. And so I also kind of want to follow up on that. And
Yeah.
what is on, I know you've been a lot of places. What is on your bucket list for the next coming year? Where haven't you been that you want to go to?
Um, well, we're so we talked about cruises earlier. So my husband and I are going to do a Brand G vacation cruise, and they're a Minnesota-based luxury LGBTQ travel company, and they do some amazing land and cruise vacations. So we're doing one in August with them, where we will start in Venice, Italy, and then where we've never been, go all the way down the Croatian coast, and I think Albania as well, which again, brand new for us. And then we hit Sicily and finish in Malta. So we are really, really looking forward, one to experience. I've heard the best things about Brand G. I've interviewed their founders a couple times, and it's such a great company. So that's going to be a big thing for us. Um, my husband has never been to the UK, and so
Oh,
I'm thinking we might do London and Manchester. I've been to London before, and it's one of my favorite cities. And I think he loves New York City, and I feel like just loving New York, how could you not love London?
yeah.
So I think that's probably going to be in there. Yellowstone, believe it or not, we've never been to Yellowstone, any of the four of us. So I think that's going to be our kid vacation this year. Um, and in a place that I think you both like, Puerto Vallarta.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
we love it there.
I love it, and my husband's never been, and I'm like, we
Oh,
gotta get you there.
yes. Oh my gosh.
Oh, and then hey, let me throw one more in. Closer, because I'm in Cleveland. Toronto is such a great city.
I love
Yes.
Toronto.
I
I
love
love,
it.
love, love.
It's only
Yeah.
like a 4 or 5 hour drive, and we're always like, why don't we think of it more often? And my husband has always wanted to go to this. thing called, I'm probably going to mispronounce it. I think it's called Caravana, and I don't think it's a queer thing, but it's like a Caribbean festival, almost like a Caribbean Mardi Gras celebration, and I think
Ooh.
it's in early August. We've always talked about going to Toronto Pride, but I'm like, either one. I think either one would be a fantastic experience.
Steve, you want to drive with
Mm.
me to Toronto Pride?
I would love to.
Yay!
Absolutely. I know. People
Let's
always say,
plan on meeting up there, and we can do a special live broadcast.
"Hey,
Perfect.
that would be great."
Yeah.
Well, we should ask maybe a practical question
Oh,
and your boomerang theory of this year with so much travel on our radar. What do you think about, because I didn't take advantage of global entry back, when it was happening. And then during the
mhm.
pandemic, things slowed down. And they said for people that were trying to get global entry, it was like, good luck. I mean, now it seems like it's back up and running. Are you a big fan of global entries, particularly if you are going to be venturing out to all parts of the world?
I am, and in fact, we finally got it about, gosh, just a year or two ago. And so if you get global entry, you also get like the TSA pre-check as part of it, and it's good for 5 years. And the difference, I think, with global entry is you have to have, because I don't think they're required for the TSA pre-check, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me here. But with the global entry, you have to, fill out all the stuff and get pre-approved, and whatever it is, like, I don't know, $115.
Right.
It's not too bad for 5 years. And then you have to do like this in-person interview.
Right.
If you go on to the whatever it is, the TSA or the government site, you can like enter in your zip code and like, where's the nearest next um, appointment available, and it'll be like, oh, there's only 3 the rest of the year. There's like next Thursday in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and then November 1st in San Antonio. And I'm like, what? Like, how is there not, and there's like 1,000 places you can do it, but they're all just like always booked. So I think that's the main reason I put it off for all these years. But then they came out with this new program just recently, and this is what pushed us. I think it's called Interview on Arrival or something like that. So what you do is you apply for it, you get the pre approval, and then the next time you travel internationally and you come back, you have to wait in the regular line like everyone else. But once you get through customs in the United States, you go back and you kind of go into line a second time in the special line at the end, and that's just a line waiting for a person who's going to do the interview. Um,
Oh,
so I did it once. Then the next, I was traveling solo, and then when I was with my husband, I waited with him. And both times, it was like a 10 or 15 minute wait in this line. And as long as you have enough of a connection, a couple hours, it's oh my gosh, it's so easy. They just ask you a handful of questions. It's nothing too crazy, and
and you're already there.
yeah,
So,
you're already there. So now that we have it, I will never go back. The problem with immigration or customs or whatever you want to call it is, and it doesn't matter the airport. People want to bitch about, oh, Chicago's the best or the worst or Houston or whatever. It doesn't matter. Day, time, whatever. You can land and that line be 4 minutes long, or it can be 3 hours and 4 minutes.
yep,
And
Wow.
there's no rhyme or reason to it, right? It's not
exactly.
like, oh, it's always 3 hours on Thanksgiving. No, sometimes it's like a Wednesday at 9 p.m. in the middle of February, and you're like, why is this line like this? With
Exactly.
with the global entry, I have never waited. I can't even think I've waited 4 minutes. Like, you go
Wow.
through it, it scans your face, you show it your passport. It's like, go to the line. They look at you and like, yeah, go on. You know, it's amazing. I don't know why I waited so long. I'm mad at myself.
All
So
right.
please,
I'm doing it.
travel a lot. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Okay, I'm definitely doing it. Thank you for that. And thank you, Paul, for
Thank you, Paul.
for your insight on so much of this travel, family travel, and so much. People you said can follow you, and the best way is on your Instagram account. And can you say that again?
Sure. It's Paul Heney, Paulhen, like Nancy, EY.
Paul Heney, love it.
Mine's a bikini. That's how I always tell people to remember it, or weenie, depending on if you're a fan of me or not.
Hey, I love it.
I like
Nice.
all of them. I'll use all of them, Paul.
Please do. Please do.
Thank you so much, Paul. This has been
Thank you so
great.
much for having me. It's been a lot of fun, guys.
Our pleasure.
Wow, Kodi, such a wealth of knowledge. And what a charming man Paul is. I just loved our conversation, talking a lot about family, the different stages of his sons when he's traveled with them when they were younger, as opposed to now he gets to travel with them almost as peers, as adults, and how rewarding that is. But he really gave us a lot of insight into where travel, his boomerang effect on where travel is today and how exciting it is to plan trips this year and beyond.
Oh,
I love
definitely.
it.
Oh, yes, me too. I loved every our conversation so much. He offered me a wealth of knowledge as far as traveling with family and what to do in countries where being gay is not looked at so favorably. He gave me a lot of insight on that too. So I really enjoyed the conversation with him, and he's so funny. I love talking to him.
Definitely. We'll take him up. Maybe if we, Cleveland, I would have never thought, although I've heard good things about, but it's now on my radar. And we should take up that offer to visit him and his partner in Cleveland because there's so much going on there. So just really thinking outside of the box on places here in the States and beyond as well. And I took some notes and definitely going to be utilizing them. So
Yeah.
very cool.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
definitely.
well, you can always follow us on social media, and we invite you to follow us. Go to our Instagram page. It's of a certain age pod, POD, of a certain age pod on Instagram. Give us a like there and follow the show. And we welcome other suggestions of things you want us to talk about. We are here for you. And Kodi, what are we doing? We're
Living
living
out
out loud.
loud.